Hello, in this lesson we are going to cover the blockchain use case of last will and testament, because there is lots of money that is spent on wills and testaments. There's always a whole heap of arguments. There's always a lot of things that are unclear as well. Who gets what? When do they get it? And using blockchain we can help alleviate, if not all of them, most of the problems. So the great thing about using some sort of blockchain based system and smart contracts is automatic execution. And a very popular concept for this is using a timer. So imagine if we have Bob, for example, and Bob has, to his name, he has $100,000. He also has, let's say, 2 houses. So he has 2 houses, and let's just say, for argument's sake, they are equal. Literally everything about them, value, location, apart from obviously they can't take the same space, but apart from that, they are all equal. That's everything that Bob owns in the world. So imagine if Bob were to pass away. So if we have Bob no more, imagine if, also want to mention that he has 2 children and he doesn't have any spouses. Actually, I'm going to say in this example his spouse has passed away, so there's no claim apart from the claim that the children might make. And Bob passes away and the children are arguing who should get what, how much they should get. One child says that I didn't go away to university, I stayed at home, and as a result I should get more of the money, I was here looking after him. And whereas the other child is like, well, I went, I became successful, I fulfilled my father's wishes, and I should get more. But Bob actually loved them both equally, and he always was adamant that they both should get half of whatever he had. So in this situation, using a smart contract, he could have it on a timer. So let's say after 6 months have passed, so that gives ample time to get Bob buried and to sort of, for everything to die down, no pun intended. And after 6 months have passed, automatically $50,000, so half of whatever he has, so $50,000, and 1 house is given to each child automatically. So imagine if, obviously we're using the dollar system here, but imagine if this was on cryptocurrency, it could automatically, as soon as that condition occurs, so him dying and 6 months passing, the 6 months is obviously more optional, but it's usually a good idea to have something timer based, so all the other affairs can be made in order, and maybe anything else outstanding can be handled and sorted out. So imagine if it's Bob owns 1,000 bitcoins. As soon as these conditions are met, those 1,000 bitcoins will, half of the bitcoins will automatically go to the child. Imagine if the houses are secured using a blockchain network. Got a separate lesson covering that. Then one of those houses will automatically be put into the other child's name. So that is some of the great advantages of using a blockchain based system. What one may argue is, with a system like this, with the money it doesn't really matter, but with the houses, like I said, they're essentially equal, but maybe child 1 wanted the first house, wherever that is. Maybe that is literally number 1 on a particular road, and but he gets the second house. And maybe child 2 isn't that fussed about it, but if it's automatically executed, then there isn't any sort of preference here, unless Bob, as the guy who makes the will and testament, specifically puts these conditions in. I know the children can handle it afterwards, but obviously when you start dealing with a lot more assets, yes, it's a lot fairer, because you essentially have this block, or this is all of the assets of someone, and let's just say if there's 3 people, it will just be split equally between those 3 people, which is obviously fantastic. But maybe one of the children or one of the parties wanted assets from here, and this person wasn't fussed if they got assets from either here or here, but they're not fussed initially, but after it's all said and done, and maybe because of their parent, whoever passing away, they're upset and they don't want to, well, swap stuff. So that's one of the disadvantages. But again, that's still really a problem in current will and testaments as well, because unless it specifically specifies who exactly gets what, if it's just an equal split, then if it's properly executed, it'll just be the same as this. So that is that. So the examples of what could, we've already covered a couple of them, what could be put within a will and testament, pretty much anything, but the big ones are property. So that can be houses or maybe art, for example. Property doesn't have to be houses. People think of it as a home, but it can be any form of private property when you own something. Money, whether that is something dollar-based or a cryptocurrency based. Maybe the person that's passed away has a company and they want to hand the shares over of that company to other individuals. And potentially future earnings. Maybe they have something that is earning him a passive income, and he wants to make sure that that doesn't just basically go to waste, actually goes to him, because he doesn't know or she doesn't know, they might pass away anytime, so they want to make sure it is all sorted out just in case it happens that way. And this ultimately will reduce arguments, because it will be immutable, cannot be changed. It will be cheaper than the conventional system of wills and testaments. It will be easier to update than always having to deal with a lawyer, for example. Obviously, still good to have some sort of intermediary, like a lawyer, to mediate, even if it's just you setting your will, just to be there, make sure it's all properly done. But it's overall going to be easier to update. Another thing is, it's going to be more secure than the conventional system, which a lot of stuff is still paper-based or initially paper-based, and it won't, I don't like this triangle. Let's do a better one. That's better. Won't be bound by a single entity. And that will help prevent anything like if the entity were to go down, or it'll help reduce delays regardless of what you're dealing with or whatever country you're in. It could be executed regardless of country, so that is amazing as well. So more secure, and all of this would actually be used, or it would all be stored on a DMF, which is a deaf master file. So unless the def is recorded on the def master file, then essentially a public ledger, or maybe a private ledger that has public aspects of it. So unless it's stored on the def master file, then obviously none of these conditions will execute. But that's sort of like a def record anyway. So unless there's a proper def record, and a death certificate, then otherwise you won't be getting your stuff with a conventional will and testament. So it's no different to that. Obviously, you need to make sure the person's dead, and maybe make sure the offspring isn't saying, "Oh yeah, they're dead, and I just want all their stuff," and they're gonna run over to Hawaii. Be impressive if they run over to Hawaii. And can also be useful for non-existent parties. Non-existent parties. So non-existent parties. I mean, obviously this can come in many forms, but the obvious one is like children, for example. So imagine Bob, he has those two children, and a third child is born, and maybe he or she is born literally just before Bob dies. It's verified that Bob is the father. Using automatic execution, if he has said that it's going to be split equally, it'll just get equally be put into that individual's name. You won't have to go through any other system because, again, it's automated. You won't have to go through all this sort of hassle of, because one of the child of the existing children might say, oh no, because that child's only come along, it's unfair that they get a third of the money, or maybe they also say they can only have 5%, or they can't have any at all. But if it is the father's wishes that they should get equal regardless of age, then yeah, it will be automatically executed. So that's how last will and testaments could be improved using the awesome blockchain. Let me just do a white circly thing here. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And as usual, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next lesson.